Hey there, my name is Mark. I'm a designer here at Mixpanel, and I'm excited to talk to you about all the new features and functionality we're introducing with saved metrics. I'll start off by talking about what events, behaviors, and metrics are. Events are moments in time in which data is captured. So in this case, we're looking at things like viewed homepage, or click sign up, or account created. Those would all be events. If I wanted to combine those and say I want these events to happen in a particular order, like a funnel, that would be called a behavior. A behavior is just a collection of events with or without conditions and filters. So in this case, I'm looking at a sign-up funnel where first someone views a homepage, then they click sign up, then they create an account. Those things happen in sequence in a funnel, whereas in a simple behavior, those could just happen in any order, and I just want to know when any of those three events happen. Now, a metric is a measurement. So I could be measuring a single event, I could measure a funnel behavior, I could measure a number of profiles or a cohort, but that would be called a metric. So in this example, I'm looking at 4 different metrics that I could generate from one behavior. I could look at conversion rate, total conversions, time to convert, or unique users, all based on the same sign-up funnel behavior, which is based on these 3 events. Metrics and behaviors together create a great way to create trustworthy definitions that anyone in your organization can rely on. Let's continue by talking about behaviors in depth. Here we can see a number of reports. Let's imagine I'm a product manager and I'm working on a documents product. So I'm looking at things that are core document actions like document created, document saved, document opened. I might look at those individually like I do in this report, and I'm just looking at all these individual events, when they happen and how many times they happen. But sometimes I want to combine those things and say, these I would qualify as a core document action. And maybe we don't think that export report is a core document action. And so what I'm doing here is using a simple behavior called core document actions I've created, and I can modify that. You can see that it's been modified because there's a little dotted line around it. And if you'd like, you can just go ahead and push the changes here. And when I push these changes in this behavior, the other places where it's used back on this board will adjust. So you can see that different metrics are generated from that behavior because the definition itself has changed. Export report is no longer there. Now let's talk about funnel behaviors. These 9 reports are based on the same funnel behavior definition. So you can see here, total conversions is 828 from steps 2 to 3, which is reflected here, and it's 74.26%, as you can see here for the conversion rate. And the same is true here. So these numbers reflect their counterparts. One of the great things about using a funnel behavior definition is that by changing one behavior in one place, I'm able to change it throughout the entire system. And so I'll go into this report so we can take a look. And let's just say that in this sign up to value moment funnel, where someone signs up, then they integrate the SDK, then they share a document, I think that maybe share a document is not the value moment. Maybe it's document created. And so I can change that definition here. We can see these numbers have updated. I can see that the funnel behavior has been changed, and I will push those changes. Once those changes have been pushed, we'll see them reflected here. So I've got 824 conversions. I didn't have to do anything to this report. I didn't have to do anything to this report. All 9 of these reports are connected, and all of them will be updated accordingly. Now let's move on to retention behaviors. Retention behaviors are great when you want to know who's done something and then done something else within a window of time. One report is displaying it over time, the other is just giving me the end result. In these 2 reports, I'm using the same retention behavioral definition. I'm looking at who integrated the SDK and then did any event within a window of time. And so because I'm using that, these things will always be connected. And that way, if I change it in one place and update that definition, it'll change elsewhere. So if I was to go into this behavior and change any of the details, like from integrate SDK to sign up, because I see this little dotted line, I could say, oh, this is the wrong behavior. I need to reset that. And so I can just go to this overflow, clear those changes, and get back to where I was. One other way I like to think about behaviors is by using flowcharts. I'm a big fan of our flows report. And one of the new reasons I'm a fan of it is because it helps me find behaviors that I didn't know existed. So when I go into my flows report, I just want to know what happens before people create a document. Really, this is generating a variety of behaviors. This is a funnel behavior where someone shared a document, they edited it, then they went to the home screen, and then they created a document. So really, each of these paths is its own funnel behavior. So I could go in here and create my own if I wanted to. And we can see that reflected here. So if I look at that document edited path, it reflects here as well. Now let's get into metrics. Metrics are great for keeping track of company KPIs and key measurements that you want everyone in your company to rely on. In the top 3 reports I'm looking at here, I'm looking at monthly recurring revenue. So let's dive into one of these reports and check it out. Now this metric was created by someone other than myself. If I look here, I can see that it was created by Jenna, a product manager on our team. Now, while the figure itself is reliable because Jenna is a great product manager, I might want to change the formatting of this number so it's got a dollar amount and maybe it's not abbreviated. Now, I can see here that the metric has been updated because I've changed the unit formatting. But because I didn't manage the metric myself, I didn't create it, that means I need to ask Jenna for edit access to be able to change this metric on my own. Now, I can change this metric and change these formatting and change it local to my report, but the metric itself stays true, which means I can't mess up this definition created by Jenna, which keeps the metric reliable and trustworthy for the rest of the organization. Now, if I go back to my report and I discard these changes, you can see that this report is looking at MRR by segment. So I'm using the same metric created by Jenna and I'm breaking it down by segment. So this makes it easy for me to just grab a thing that someone has created, who we trust, to then go on and do my own analysis without having to worry about it. Now, if I look at these next few reports, I'm looking at company by plan type. So here I'm looking at what our revenue is coming from. Is it coming from premium or basic subscriptions? And so these reports are using Jenna's metric as well. I'm just breaking them down by different aspects. So what's great about metrics is I'm able to grab metrics that we trust at the company and do my own analysis on it. So while I'm looking at these plan types, I'm using Jenna's metric to build the definitions that I know are reliable and breaking them down so I can understand them. So here I'm looking at total profiles by plan type because some of them are free, some of them are trial, and so I want to know who's in the pipeline, who might be able to convert from trial to paid. And so it's really helpful to be able to use metrics to dive further and better understand your own company's performance, health, etc., based on metrics that everyone relies on to do in-depth analysis without having to worry about, is this metric correct? Because we all believe it is. And below here, I'm looking at marketing data, and I want to better understand how our cost per click and ad spend is going. Now, I'm using metrics here that I've created, so you'll see changes happen as I make them. So let's look at this one. Right now, I'm looking at sum of clicks on ad spend versus sum of cost on ad spend. And let's just say I want to change the unit formatting here. I can go in here and say, I actually want this to be a dollar amount, and I don't want to summarize it. So just show me the full amount. It's a little big. Let's go ahead. And again, I can see the dotted line has changed here. I can click this overflow and push those changes. I'll do the same thing here with sum of clicks on ad spend. I'll go here, and I don't want that abbreviated. I want to know the full amount of clicks. And I can see that it's been modified, and I will go over here and push those changes. And when I go back to the board, I can see that the formatting has been updated here as well. So I can compare all these different reports with the same metric I created and trust. Now let's take a look at cohorts and profiles. Two new features in saved metrics is the ability to save profiles and cohorts with filters on them. So I have these two different reports. This one is looking at how many active users are designers, and this one is looking at how much MRR comes from enterprise. Let's start here. I'm looking at a cohort of active users, so I want to know which ones are designers. So I'll go into this filter and filter by department, and I want the department to be design. So I'll add that. I can see how many active users are designers, and I can save that report and return to my board. And I can do the same thing here. Let's take a look at this report. I'm looking at all companies, but I want to know which segment is enterprise making up, and I can filter that segment. And so I can save that and go back to my board. And last but not least, some changes to group analytics. Previously, in reports, you would have to make a choice. Do you want to measure by users or companies? Now, in Insights, you're able to measure by both. In this report, I'm looking at MRR versus value moment conversion. And so here I'm looking at monthly recurring revenue, the same metric we've been using, measuring company sum of MRR on all companies. Or below, I'm looking at sign up to value moment conversion rate, which measures user activity. And so this is great to understand how a particular product function might impact MRR, or how your marketing activity like ad spend could impact MRR or product feature utilization. In this one, I'm looking at the same behavior, which is new user retention, but I'm measuring by two different group profiles. One is user and the other is company. And by measuring the same behavior across two different groups, I'm able to compare user retention versus company retention. So I hope you found this video and these features to be useful. If you've got any questions, comments, or feedback, please let us know. Take care.